Look, I've told this one maybe 3 times. Twice to a department shrink who wrote it off as cumulative stress. Once to my wife who didn't sleep right for a month after. I'm telling you now because you're new on Medic 11 and you need to know that some calls don't close. Not in the system. Not in your head. Not ever. This was 2003, February. I was running Station 11, combination company, engine and medic unit, same house, same crew. West Side blue-collar district that was bleeding out slow. Half the businesses shuttered, half the houses boarded, and the ones still occupied were mostly people too old or too stubborn to leave. We ran a lot of cardiac arrests on the West Side. A lot of found down calls where the neighbor hadn't seen Mrs. So-and-so pick up her newspaper in 3 days. You get used to it. You shouldn't, but you do. Tuesday night, that's what I remember first. It was a Tuesday. Every firefighter knows Tuesdays are dead. Mondays are domestic violence and chest pains. Fridays are stabbings and car wrecks. Saturdays are structure fires because some drunk knocks over a space heater. But Tuesdays, the city held its breath. I was in the apparatus bay doing a check-off on Medic 11. Not because anything was due, because I couldn't sleep. The new EPCR system they'd bolted to the dash was giving me grief. Electronic patient care reports. The department had switched from paper run sheets the year before, and the software was garbage. Half the drop-down menus didn't work, the stylus was always lost, and if you didn't save every 30 seconds, the whole report crashed. The old paper forms, you could write, "Patient refused in 10 seconds," and go back to bed. This thing wanted your life story in triplicate. Marcus was in the kitchen washing dishes. Probie, 6 months on. Good kid, big hands, soft voice. The kind of firefighter who'd carry an old lady out of a second-floor walk-up and apologize for the bumpy ride. Dorsey, Linda Dorsey, firefighter-paramedic, was in the day room reading a romance novel with her boots already on. 11 years on the medic unit. She could start a line in a moving rig on a pothole street at 3 in the morning without spilling a drop. Tones dropped at 0307. That sound. If you've heard it, you know that two-tone alert that turns your stomach into a fist. Cardiac arrest, 1400 block of Magnolia Street. Caller was a neighbor. Said she heard someone crying through the shared wall, Magnolia Street. I knew the block. Everybody at Station 11 knew it. Old bungalow neighborhood, the kind they built by the thousands after the war. Small lots, shared driveways, chain-link fences between yards. Half the block was boarded up by 03. The kind of street where you memorize the hydrant locations because the houses are close enough to domino if one goes. We were on the rig in 90 seconds. Engine 11 rolled behind us as backup. 4-minute run. Rain. Not hard, just that cold February mist that gets inside your turnout coat collar and stays there. The wipers on Medic 11 were shot, dragged across the windshield like fingernails on a chalkboard. Marcus drove. Dorsey and I were in the back prepping the monitor and drug box. Pulled up to a single-story ranch. Aluminum siding, porch light dead, 2 windows covered with plywood. The front door was open. Not forced, not kicked. Just open. About 6 inches. Light coming from inside. Warm light like a lamp. I flagged it right away. Cardiac arrest, doors open. That's usually the family letting you in. But dispatch said the caller was a neighbor. The neighbor didn't enter the residence. And this house, I remembered it. 1400 Magnolia. It had been vacant for years. I'd done a walkthrough 2 summers before on a weed abatement complaint, and the place was gutted. No furniture, no power, squirrels in the attic. But now there was a light on inside. And when Marcus popped the side door of the medic unit, I smelled it. Coffee. Fresh coffee. Not the stale, rancid smell of an old pot left on a burner. The real thing. Somebody had just brewed a pot in that house. In a house with no electricity. In a house with no one living in it. In February, at 3 in the morning, on a block where the nearest occupied home was 4 doors down. Dorsey looked at me. I looked at her. Neither of us said anything. You don't on a cardiac arrest. You grab your gear and you go. That's the training. That's the muscle memory. Whatever's wrong with the picture, you deal with it after the patient is stable or dead. We went in. The kitchen was clean. That's the part that still gets me. Not hospital clean, lived-in clean. Dish towel folded on the counter, salt and pepper shakers on the table, a Mr. Coffee machine on the counter with the red light on, a full pot of coffee that I could feel radiating heat from 3 feet away. The floor was swept. The linoleum was old, that yellow and brown pattern from the 70s, but it was clean. No dust, no cobwebs, no squirrel droppings. This was not the same house I'd walked through 2 years earlier, and she was sitting right there at the table. Kitchen chair, wooden, the kind with spindles on the back. She was wearing a housecoat, floral print, blues and greens, and slippers. Hands folded in her lap like she was waiting for us. Mid-60s, maybe. Gray hair pinned up, and she was looking right at me with eyes that were, present. Aware, like she'd been expecting company. "Oh, you boys came quick," she said. Dorsey recovered first. She's a professional, pads on, monitor on. And that's when the first thing broke. Asystole, flatline, no electrical activity at all. I checked her radial pulse. Nothing. Dorsey checked carotid. Nothing. This woman had no heartbeat, no pulse. She was by every clinical definition in cardiac arrest, and she was smiling at us. Dorsey said, "Loose lead," like it was nothing. She swapped the leads. Same reading, tried a different set of pads. Asystole, but the woman's skin was warm. Pink. I did a cap refill on her fingernail. 2 seconds, normal. She was breathing. I could see her chest rise. Dorsey clipped the pulse ox to her finger. Nothing. 0. We put it on Marcus. 98%. Back on the patient. 0. She watched us work like she was watching someone fix a kitchen faucet. Patient. A little amused. "My name is Helen Marsh," she said. "June 14, 1937. I've got high blood pressure, sugar diabetes, and I had a heart attack in '82. I'm allergic to penicillin. Is that what you need?" I keyed the radio. "Dispatch, can you run a name and DOB for our patient, Helen Marsh, June 14, 37, 1400 Magnolia." And dispatch came back fast, too fast. "Station 11 confirmed, Helen Marsh, same DOB, medical history matches. But Captain, that address shows vacant, no current resident at that location." Inhale. I looked at Helen. Helen looked at me. She didn't seem troubled by this. She picked up her coffee cup and took a sip, which is a thing that dead people do not do. "There's a little one in the back bedroom," she said. Calm, matter of fact, like she was telling me the stove was on. "Can you check on her? She's been so quiet." I sent Marcus. He didn't want to go. I could see it in the way his shoulders tightened when he turned the corner into the hallway. But he went. That's what probies do. They go where you tell them because they trust you. And I sent him down a dark hallway in a house that shouldn't have had anyone in it because a dead woman asked me to check on a child. He came back in maybe 2 minutes. His face was off. Not scared exactly, flat, like someone had wiped the expression off it. "Cap, there's nothing back there. Empty room, no furniture, no kid." Helen looked confused. Not scared, confused. Like a grandmother who set down her reading glasses and can't find them. She was just crying, just a minute ago. Then she turned back to me and her eyes changed. Not the color, the depth, like something behind them pulled back about 1,000 yards and I was looking down a well. "I think I need to tell you about..." And she stopped, mid-word, eyes open, mouth open, still sitting upright. The monitor didn't change because it had nothing to change from. Still flatline. But something left. I don't know how to describe it except that One second she was there, and the next second the room was empty, even though her body was still in the chair. Then the monitor beeped. V-fib. Then flatline. Then the screen went to the timestamp page, like the whole unit rebooted itself. She started to lean. Dorsey caught her. We laid her on the kitchen floor, and I started compressions. 40 minutes. Epi, amiodarone, 4 shocks, bilateral IVs, everything in the box. She was dead. She was dead before we walked in the door. We just didn't know it yet, pronounced 358. Dorsey logged it on the EPCR tablet, and every field populated clean. Name, DOB, history, allergies, except one. The transport number. It auto-filled, all 87-03041. A run number from March 12, 1987. 16 years before the digital system existed. Dorsey looked at me. I looked at the screen. Neither of us touched it. We drove back to quarters in the rain. Nobody talked. Marcus stared out the side window. Dorsey held the EPCR tablet in her lap, and every few seconds she looked down at that transport number, 8703120041, like she was waiting for it to change. It didn't. Back at Station 11, I filed the preliminary, documented the pronouncement. Standard. The machinery of death is mostly paperwork. I poured a cup of coffee from the station pot and couldn't drink it. The smell turned my stomach. It smelled exactly like that kitchen. 4:30, phone rings. County Hospital Records Department. A clerk named Diane, who sounded like she'd been asleep 10 minutes ago and was now very much awake. Captain, we're pulling up your patient, Helen Marsh, DOB June 14th, 1937, and we're showing a prior transport from that same address. March 12th, 1987. Cardiac arrest, pronounced on arrival at County General. Can you confirm this is a different patient? I sat down. I don't remember deciding to sit. My legs just quit. Same name, same date of birth, same medical history. Hypertension, diabetes, MI in 82, penicillin allergy. Same address, same cause of death, same kitchen. The woman we just pronounced had been dead for 16 years. I told Diane I'd call her back. I didn't. By morning, I was in the basement pulling paper archives, pre-digital incident reports, old triplicate forms in boxes that smelled like mildew. Found 1987. Found the run sheet. Medic 7, March 12, 1987, 0307 hours, 1400 block of Magnolia Street, cardiac arrest. The narrative, handwritten, blue ink, read, patient found seated upright in kitchen chair, coffee on table, asystole on monitor. Patient initially responsive and verbal, became unresponsive during assessment. Full resuscitation attempted, pronounced on scene. Word for word what I would write on mine. The same call, 16 years apart. The 1987 crew was Medic 7. 2 paramedics, Tom Guzman and Ray Pelletier. I knew the names because every firefighter in the department knew the names. Tom Guzman. November 1987, warehouse fire, second floor gave out during primary search. 8 months after Magnolia. Ray Pelletier. Single car accident, March 12, 1988, 1 year to the day. Drove his pickup into a bridge abutment on Magnolia Street at 3:07 hours. Same time as the original dispatch. The accident report said no mechanical failure, no intoxication, no evasive action. Ray just drove straight into concrete at 50 miles an hour on the anniversary of a call that couldn't have happened. I closed the box, sat on a milk crate in that basement, and thought about my crew. Dorsey, Marcus, 8 months, 1 year. 3 days later, Marcus asked to talk. Bunk room, door closed. He sat on the edge of the bed staring at his hands. Cap, I lied about the back bedroom. I waited. It wasn't empty. His voice was flat, like reading from someone else's script. There was a crib, old wooden crib with a drop rail, like from the 50s, and there was a blanket inside, bunched up, like something had just been picked up out of it. And it was warm, Cap. The blanket was warm. He kept going. He couldn't stop now. I could smell baby powder. That room smelled like baby powder and milk. And the window, the one with the plywood over it, on the inside, the plywood had scratches on it. Small scratches, like fingernails, like someone small had been trying to get out for a long time. I asked him why he didn't tell me. He shook his head slow, back and forth, back and forth. Because she asked us to check on her, Cap. Helen asked us to check on the little one, and I saw the crib, and I felt the blanket, and I didn't pick her up. Whatever was in that crib, I didn't pick her up. And now I can't stop thinking about what would have happened if I did. I didn't have an answer. I don't have one now. I filed the run report. The system never let me delete that 1987 transport number. ID called it a software glitch. They'd patch it. They never did. I drove past 1400 Magnolia one more time, daytime. The front door was boarded shut, plywood, nails, sealed tight like it had never been open. Through the one uncovered window, I could see the house was empty. Dust on the floor, no footprints, not even ours. I didn't drive down Magnolia again. 11 more years on the job, and I routed every call around that block. The young firefighter across from me hasn't touched his beer. Cap, he says. What happened to your crew after that call? Dorsey and Marcus, what happened to them? I peel the label off my bottle. Wet paper comes away in a long strip. Rain taps on the apparatus bay roof. Somewhere inside the hall, someone laughs at a joke I can't hear. I take a drink.